I feel like this video is kind of like the permission, grace giving you the permission. There's always grace that's going to like accomplish the thing, right? It's grace that has you let go. It's grace that sets the time and the parameters of you letting go. So grace, I believe, is giving you the permission, for whoever this is for, to let yourself off of the hook in this way. Or now I just forgot. Give me a second. Okay, it came back. Grace is giving you the permission. He's giving you the grace to have the permission to let yourself go from believing that you have to get things right away, that you have to understand things right away, that life is so black and white, that your trajectory in your life, your walk with the Lord is going to be linear, right? It's going to be this like, ooh, it's not. It's going to be all over the place. Backtracks and all this. It's going to be a disco inferno, just like all that shit. And I think that's to show you that like he's not limited, and he is beyond the like limitation. He's beyond time. And so your walk with him is going to look like how it's going to look like. And this to me is akin to like how you're not going to get it right away is like you become, like your spiritual ears become in tune to hear a new thing, right? So he begins to align like your hearing to a new thing that he is saying, but it's not for you to get. It's this like establishing in him, right? That takes time. It takes time to grow roots in him. You're not going to get it. And I think the thing that makes us feel so anxious and worried about if we don't get it or not, right? Feeling like we have to be right where God is. If I don't talk to God today, I need to make up for it. Like this whole thing is, we feel that when he accepts us with conditions, and that is, you must live for me, right? Because we're coming from this dark place where we can't fathom him just wanting us for us, because the influences of darkness have greatly pressured us to believe, have deceived us in this way to believe that we are lacking. And so we must do something. And so if he's going to teach us something, we have to get it right away, right? If we're going to live for God, we have to live for God every single day. We have to rededicate ourselves to God every single day. Every single day, all the time. And look, I know that position because I was also in that position. That was what was familiar to me. That seemed to be what was established in the broad road, that I would be like, yes, that makes a lot of sense because I feel like I'm lacking all the time. So I must be aiming at doing something. And if I stop with the aim and the focus, then I will get off of track, because to believe that you are lacking in the present is truly like a place of misery, because you never really get to the future, because the future is just another present that you're not going to be like enough in. It's sad. But God will do this thing, and this is what he's doing with me. This seems to be this gentleness of the Father, the relaxed position of the Father, which is, you're not going to get this right away, because you are like learning how to walk again, right? You are unlearning what was taught to you. And what was taught to you was greatly familiarized and established by so many people. So there was like already this like structure to it. You just kind of walk up and there it is. You see it. Everyone else is doing it and saying it and thinking it. And so it's not hard for you to believe that and put that on. Plus, you didn't really know anything of anything else, because this is all that you see. It's like kind of where the world is. But he pulls you away from the world and the pollutions of the world. And you begin to be in this new place with him where you're not going to get it right away. Because everything that was familiar to you was what you have seen before. And he pulls you away from the familiar to take you into the unfamiliar. And that's going to require new eyes and new ears to adjust to a new thing. And even then, you're not going to have a reference point of what you're actually viewing and what you are seeing, because you see that as he brings you into an unfamiliar place, how blind you were in a familiar place. Most of the world seems to be blind and in darkness. But we have agreed to the speculations that we've had in the dark, and this is what has created our belief systems. And so those are widely accepted, right? This religious way of thinking. This whole I'm separated because of this that I did. I'm an orphan, basically. This orphan spirit, this orphan mentality. But you get brought into the light, and you will see this is not a familiar place to me. It's almost like you need that context. You need the context of the light to show you how dark it was. And in that place, it's not going to be something that you get right away, because you can't get something that you've never seen before. So you have to adjust to a new environment. And we think that whenever God has now received us, when we've given our life to him and he has received us, that it comes with these conditions for living for him. But that's just darkness. That's just a darkness mindset that says there are conditions to you receiving me. But in light, you will find that there are not conditions for him to receive you. But this was actually something that you learned in the dark. But to come from where you believe there are conditions to receive you to no longer believing that there are conditions to receive you is a whole process. It's a whole transition. It's a whole going from darkness to magnificent light. It's not an overnight thing. At least I don't think it is. It is a thing that you're just not going to get. And you're going to stumble, and you're going to stumble, and you're going to walk, and these old familiar pressures are going to come, and he's like going to use that to actually clear things out and make more room. And you're like, room for what? Room for what? I feel so exposed. I feel so naked. Like in the dark, I had these things that I could grab onto, that I could rely on, that I could feel enough with, and now I don't have those things. And so now I'm in the light. And then so many people don't recognize it to be the light, because they're in darkness, calling the darkness light. And so I don't even know if it is, because I'm in a new place and I don't understand what's happening. And he's like, yeah, you're not going to. It's going to take time for your eyes to adjust to your new environment. You will not get it right away. There's not an answer I think that he can give you that would make you feel comfortable in a new place. There are not words, an answer that you can receive that'll be sufficient. You will just have to adjust to your new environment. It's almost like you had amnesia your whole life because you were born into darkness and all of the lies of darkness that you thought were true because that's all that you knew. And then he brings you into the light and he shows you how deceived you were. And that takes time for those lies to be broken off of you that you thought were true. It's not just like the generic things about good and evil or whatever. This is the lies of Satan. It's like, no, there's like these insidious lies that we have so normalized and established in darkness to be true that it's going to take time for you to be unbraided from that perspective and braided into his perspective, that he's always received you. Even me saying it now, it's like it's hard to even fathom, right? But I'm going in that direction because he's taking me in that direction. But it's like what was familiar to me is I am not enough. Jesus makes me enough. I have to now follow Jesus. But in my own right, I'm not enough. And I don't think that's true anymore. And I don't quite know what the new good thing is, but it's not that. And the good news is not quite that. And the good news of the gospel is not quite that. So if you're on that journey, hey, I'm here. You know what I mean? But it's just like there's this permission to just let yourself off the hook and be like, I couldn't get this right away even if I wanted to, because it's so new. It's so unfamiliar to the way in which I was brought up. The way in which I was brought up in darkness and put on all of these things into a place where you don't have those things, but you're enough. You're not just gonna be like, oh, that makes sense. It's like, no, it's a completely different environment, right? You can describe the old environment all day long, at least from that place. But it's like it's even like you're in a new environment and you don't know how to describe that new environment because all you have ever known is the old environment, and so now you're in a new environment. You don't know how to describe it because nothing looks familiar. So you're not going to get that. Like, it's not something you're going to get. It's not going to click right away. But his faithfulness is going to come and show you, no, I receive you. I receive you. I'm not going anywhere. I'm not going anywhere. I who began a good work, I am faithful to complete it. I'm not going anywhere. And you're like, yeah, you're not going anywhere logically. And then, but then in your heart, you're like, well, everyone's always gone somewhere. So it's just going to take time for you to be like,